Okay, Alison, it's over to you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the trustees of the Honor Frost Foundation, thank you all for attending this webinar. We're excited to be transmitting our 9th annual lecture this evening, which is being given by Professor Emad Khalil, distinguished scholar, founder and director of the Alexandria University Centre for Maritime Archaeology and Underwater Cultural Heritage. Professor Khalil is also Vice Dean for Graduate Studies and Research at the University of the Arts at Alexandria. He will be talking to us tonight about the vital maritime archaeological work that we've been supporting in Egypt since our foundation. Honor's love of Egypt lasted throughout her long life, and she dreamed of returning in her last years to Alexandria, or Alex, as she so fondly called it. For Honor, Alexandria was the perfect nexus between her two worlds, her own two worlds, those of the ancient European and Middle Eastern cultures. In his book, Alexandria, the Sunken City, William Lariche describes how, in 1968, the Egyptian government requested expert assistance from UNESCO to explore the city's submerged culture. This arrived in the, and I quote, inimitable form of the diminutive, highly articulate, relentlessly determined Honor Frost, as her friend Jean-Yves Empereur described her. Without the benefit of underwater photography, Honor was able to produce both drawings and a description sufficiently detailed to give a good idea of the site. She had mapped the seabed and many of its stone treasures using pieces of rope and a method of triangulation. Methods which today appear primitive in comparison to the highly technological modes of cartography now available, but which nevertheless proved to be extraordinarily accurate. Furthermore, she was able to confirm the existence of ruins representing part of the Lighthouse of Alexandria, built on the island of Pharos, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. She returned to Alexandria in 1995 to assist with the famous Pharos campaign undertaken by Empereur that confirmed the accuracy of her drawings made nearly 30 years earlier. So it is with great pleasure that the trustees are supporting Honor's legacy in Egypt. And we're delighted that Professor Khalil is going to tell you more about this work, which includes not only the projects he himself is undertaking, but also the others we're funding. Emad.
Alison, thank you very much for your lovely presentation and introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, my dear colleagues, dear friends of the Honor Frost Foundation, good evening to you all. And firstly, I wish to sincerely thank the Foundation for this kind invitation to give the 9th 2020 lecture. I'm very happy to be here with you, even if it was virtually. And I hope next year we can all meet in person. Today, I'm going to speak about the contribution of the Honor Frost Foundation to maritime archaeology in Egypt. In fact, maritime archaeology in Egypt owes a lot to the Honor Frost Foundation. The development that happened in maritime and underwater archaeology in Egypt as a result of the Foundation's support is unprecedented and unparalleled. However, to speak about the contribution of the Foundation, I have to start with speaking about the contribution of Honor Frost herself to the Egyptian maritime archaeology. As Alison rightly mentioned, in 1961, an Egyptian diver named Kamil Abul Sadat discovered many submerged remains along the coast of Alexandria ancient harbor, which included several statues and architectural elements. He also produced a basic map of the ancient harbor, indicating the location of the submerged ruins. Accordingly, in 1962, the Egyptian Navy salvaged a 6 meters long female statue made of granite, which was believed at that time to be of the goddess Isis. In 1968, upon the request of the Egyptian government, the UNESCO invited Honor Frost to visit the site, which Kamil found and mapped earlier. She came to Alexandria and she made 6 dives on the site with him. She also produced a number of sketches for some of the objects she saw underwater. In addition to diving and recording several of the submerged objects in the ancient harbor of Alexandria, perhaps the most important contribution of Honor Frost in that respect was stating for the first time that these remains are actually from the Pharos of Alexandria, the famous lighthouse, which was constructed in the 3rd century BC and was destroyed in the 14th century AD as a result of several earthquakes. A short article she published in 1975 in the IJNA was the first scientific publication to associate that site with the ancient lighthouse of Alexandria. 27 years later, in 1995, when the French Center of Alexandrian Study, directed by Johnny Van Peur, started excavating the Pharos site, Honor Frost was invited to visit Alexandria once again and to dive on the site. Actually, I remember that day very well. I was there at the site, and my colleagues and I were so excited about her visit and about diving with her on the Pharos. She came and she had her own gear with her and she dived on the site in a very rough weather. We were all very worried about her actually, but she was just great. She was 78 when she did that. Well, concerning the Honor Frost Foundation activities in Egypt, since its creation in 2011, the foundation has supported numerous projects and initiatives in the field of maritime archaeology in the Mediterranean, Red Sea, and the Nile. In my talk, I'll briefly present each of these projects and sites, starting from north to south. Probably the first contribution of the Honor Frost Foundation in Egypt is the support it is providing for the Alexandria Centre for Maritime Archaeology and Underwater Culture Heritage, which I proudly direct. The center was created in 2009 in collaboration with the University of Southampton and a number of other institutions, and with funding from the European Commission Tempus program. Since then, it has been providing education and training at different levels in maritime archaeology. So far, it's the only academic and research institution of its kind in the region. And recently, it became the host of a UNESCO chair in underwater cultural heritage. That was just last month. The center has been supported by the Honor Frost Foundation in different ways, which includes supporting the center's projects, staff, students, and resources. The first project that's being supported by the foundation since 2015 is the Marsa Bagoush Research Project. So far, it's the only underwater archaeological project in the Egyptian Mediterranean coast which is taking place outside Alexandria. The site of Marsa Bagoush, known in antiquity as Zigris Ladamantia, is a large natural anchorage located about 250 kilometers west of Alexandria. We accidentally discovered the site in 2011 while carrying out regular diving training for the center students. Starting from 2015, we have been studying the site with the kind support of the Honor Frost Foundation. The project so far resulted in the discovery of an incredibly active harbor, which has been in use since as early as the 4th century BC until the early 20th century. Evidence for several shipwrecks were discovered at the site. Also, Greek, Roman, and medieval ceramics were located at the site, coming from almost all over the Mediterranean. The site also includes the second largest collection of ancient anchors to be recorded in Egypt so far, ranging from stone anchors all the way until 20th century British Admiralty anchors. 32 anchors of different types and dates were recorded on the site so far. However, the majority are Roman anchors. We are expecting this number to increase significantly in the coming years, since we only explored 40% of the site so far. The project was also a great opportunity for training many students and researchers on different archaeological skills during field work. Another project that was supported by the foundation was publishing my book titled Maritime Archaeology and Underwater Cultural Heritage in 2016. This is the only textbook written in Arabic so far about maritime archaeology. Since then, the book has been considered the main reference on that topic in the Arab region. It was also praised by UNESCO and several other international and national organizations. Moreover, the foundation is also supporting another project, which I believe is quite unique in many aspects. It is the Maritime Archaeology Outreach Project, which is carried out by a team of researchers from the Alexandria Centre for Maritime Archaeology. The project aims to raise awareness of underwater cultural heritage, particularly among school children in Egypt. In doing so, the project carries out various activities targeting children aged 5 to 12 years to introduce them to the principles of the exploration and preservation of underwater cultural heritage. The project carries out many innovative activities in schools, museums, culture centers, and even summer resorts. Another great achievement of the Maritime Archaeology Outreach Project is the creation of this character. His name is Bahar, which also means a mariner in Arabic. The whole idea started with this Playmobil figure, which I have had on my desk for 15 years. I bought this for myself as a present when I finished my PhD a long time ago. When Nada Kamel, the team leader, saw it in my office, she thought of making it the project mascot and building a character and a story around it. Soon, Bahar became very famous in Egypt. He's attending all events carried out by the project. Children love taking photos with him, and he even goes diving with us all the time. Based on the character of Bahar comes another achievement of the outreach project, also supported by the foundation. It is the production of the first ever Arabic children's story in underwater cultural heritage, The Adventures of Bahar, which is published by the Alexandria Library. It tells the story of Bahar and his sister exploring the underwater world. We are expecting to receive the first copies of this book in 2 weeks' time. The story will be given to children during the project's activities and events. Another important initiative, which is kindly supported by the Honor Frost Foundation, is the annual training bursary grant for the students of the Center for Maritime Archaeology. The grant plays a key role in helping students develop their skills and abilities. It enables them to attend conferences, workshops, field projects in Egypt or abroad. So far, 15 students have benefited from the training grant, over the past couple of years. They were able to attend workshops and seminars in Lyon, in Zadar, and in Oxford, in addition to several online courses in 2020 due to the pandemic situation. The foundation is also funding 2 annual scholarships for students to study for master's degree at the Alexandria Centre for Maritime Archaeology. On the other hand, since we do not have a PhD program in maritime archaeology in Egypt yet, a number of our graduates were kindly funded by the Honor Frost Foundation to study for a PhD in universities abroad, but mostly in Southampton, our partner, if I may say. The foundation is also supporting visiting scholars to contribute to teaching at the Alexandria Centre for Maritime Archaeology. Over the past years, we have received at the center Dr. Lucy Samaan from the Honor Frost Foundation Lebanon, and Arturo da Silva from the University of Sorbonne in Paris. And currently, Dr. Athena Trakadas from the National Museum of Denmark is teaching our students online. This, in fact, gives our students a wide international perspective to maritime archaeology topics. It is obvious that the support provided by the foundation is fundamental for the development of the Alexandria Centre for Maritime Archaeology. Without the foundation's support, most of what we proudly do would have been simply impossible. Therefore, on behalf of the center's team, I wish to sincerely thank the foundation for its invaluable support. The other research center that is supported by the foundation is the French Center for Alexandrian Study, which has been carrying out terrestrial and underwater archaeological projects in Alexandria for almost 30 years. The Centre d'Études Alexandrines is based in Alexandria. However, it's part of the French National Center for Scientific Research, the CNRS. The most significant underwater archaeology project carried out by this Alex is the Pharos excavation, as Alison mentioned earlier, which started in 1994. The project surveyed and documented the submerged remains of the ancient Lighthouse of Alexandria, which were explored by Honor Frost in the 60s. The site includes more than 3,000 granite blocks and objects from the Lighthouse complex, some of which weigh almost 40 tons. That includes statues, sphinxes, columns, and many architectural elements. Few objects were excavated in the 90s and are now on display in an open-air museum in Alexandria. However, the majority of pieces are still underwater, covering an area of about 15,000 square meters. Since 2013, the Honor Frost Foundation has been supporting the detailed digital documentation of the site, including the production of 3D photogrammetric model of the entire site to be used for public presentation and education purposes. So far, more than 50,000 photos were taken for the site, and almost 8,000 square meters have been digitally modeled. Another CEA Alex project that is supported by the foundation is the study of a collection of 50 anchors of different types dating from antiquity to all the way to the 18th century. They are found outside the eastern harbor of Alexandria. This is the largest collection of anchors to be found in Egypt so far. Finally, in 2015, with the support of the foundation, the CE Alex has published a book dedicated to the memory of Honor Frost. The book titled Alexandria Under the Mediterranean, and it features her archaeological bibliography, plus some previous unpublished articles, in addition to a catalog of the anchors that were found off the coast of Alexandria. Another research project supported by the Honor Frost Foundation is the study of the Roman and Byzantine harbor of Maria by the Polish Archaeological Mission of the University of Warsaw. The site of Maria is located about 45 kilometers west of Alexandria on the southern shore of Lake Mareotis. In antiquity, Lake Mareotis was fed by the Nile. Along its shores thrived many activities, such as wine and pottery production, growing papyrus, producing linen. Therefore, several harbors and maritime structures were recorded along the shores of Lake Mareotis. Unfortunately, the lake's current size is only about 15% of its original size, since most of it has been reclaimed. Maria is the largest town on Lake Mareotis, and harbor is probably the largest surviving lake harbor from ancient world. Archaeological evidence in Maria extend from the 1st century to the 7th century AD. Accordingly, the research which the nation is supporting aims to investigate the coastline of Lake Mareotis and determine the changes that occurred in the Maria harbor over time. Now let's move from the northern coast of Egypt and look at projects supported by the Honor Frost Foundation along the Red Sea coast, starting from north to south. First, we have the excavation at the site of Ain Sokhna on the Gulf of Suez, which is carried out by the Sorbonne University in Paris. The site was an active ancient Egyptian harbor during the Old and Middle Kingdoms, and it has been occupied as early as the 3rd millennium BC. From there, from the site of Ain Sokhna, Egyptian maritime expeditions sailed to the Sinai Peninsula and to the southern part of the Red Sea. Archaeological investigation at Ain Sokhna resulted in the discovery of a series of 10 galleries excavated in the mountain's rocks. They were used for the storage of equipment and even of whole boats in between expeditions. In the slide, this is Patrice Poumet pointing at some of the remains of an entire ship, an entire boat that was stored inside one of these galleries. A number of harbor facilities have been identified at the site, including areas which may have been used for maintaining boats. About 50 kilometers south of Ain Sokhna, there is another project that the foundation is kindly supporting. It is the archaeological excavation at Wadi al-Jarf, the most ancient artificial harbor discovered in Egypt and probably in the entire world so far. The project is carried out by the University of Sorbonne in Paris in collaboration with the Department of Underwater Archaeology at the Ministry of Antiquities and Tourism. The harbor of Wadi al-Jarf was built around 2600 BC during the reign of King Khufu, the builder of the Great Pyramid of Giza. It was used by boats traveling across the Gulf of Suez to obtain copper from the mines in the Sinai Peninsula. The site contains plenty of evidence for maritime activities, including several rock-cut caves and galleries which were used for workers and for storage of equipment. The site also has several Bronze Age stone anchors that were discovered underwater. However, the main maritime feature in the site is a large L-shaped artificial pier measuring 200 by 200 meters, which was used as a breakwater to create a safe anchorage area. This site is still under investigation. Further work will help to define more precisely the main features and actions of the Red Sea harbors at the Egyptian early dynastic period. About 260 kilometers south of Wadi al-Jarf comes another project supported by the Honor Frost Foundation and carried out by the Alexandria Centre for Maritime Archaeology. It is the Sadana Island Shipwreck Research Project. The Sadana Island Shipwreck is an 18th century Ottoman porcelain carrier that was discovered in 1994. The wreck lies at the bottom of the reef at a depth between 30 and 48 meters. Between 1995 and 1998, the site was partially excavated by the Institute of Nautical Archaeology. During the excavation, which was carried out over the period of 3 seasons, hundreds of artifacts were excavated from the wreck. Several of them are now on display in the Hurghada Museum in Egypt. However, despite the work that was done in the 90s, which I was proudly part of, the object that was least studied was the ship itself. The surveying technique at that time and the depth of the site prevented developing a plan for the wreck. Also, thousands of artifacts were left on the site, many of which are unfortunately subject to looting by sport divers. Therefore, our ongoing project, which is kindly supported by the Honor Frost Foundation, aims to reinvestigate the Sadana shipwreck in order to carry out an assessment of the site and of the wreck itself. We carried out 1 season so far, and we are planning to go again in April to create a general 3D plan of the wreck using photogrammetry. The Sadana ship is one of only 3 ships of the same type that were discovered in the Red Sea. One of them was found in the 80s in Sharm el-Sheikh, and one was found recently in Saudi Arabia. These ships were used for transporting porcelain, pottery, incense, and spices, and many other products across the Red Sea to Suez. And from there, cargo would have been distributed all over the Ottoman Empire. Another Red Sea project supported by the foundation was in 2015. It was the excavation of the Hellenistic and Roman harbor of Berenike. The project, which started in 1994, is directed by Stephen Sidebottom from the University of Delaware. Berenike is about 250 kilometers north of the Egyptian-Sudanese borders. It was one of the main harbors on the Red Sea during the Ptolemaic and Roman periods. Therefore, it played a key role in trade between Egypt and the Indian Ocean. The excavation of the coastal settlement and harbor of Berenike revealed the wealth of evidence on maritime activities and Eastern trade from the 3rd century BC until probably the 6th century AD. Finally, we have a project that took place in February 2019, and it was led by Zishan Sheikh from the University of Southampton. The project was part of his PhD research. The project aimed to explore the role of local land and seascapes in ancient navigation along the Egyptian coast of the Red Sea. The project's fieldwork involved sailing along the Red Sea coast of Egypt, utilizing natural navigation and looking at navigational clues or landmarks that ancient navigators could have used. Zishan was joined during fieldwork by a team from the Alexandria Centre for Maritime Archaeology. This is actually a very interesting project, and I think there is still quite a lot that could be done on that respect. Moving away from the Red Sea and looking at research projects funded by the Honor Frost Foundation, which took place along the Nile. First, we come across the British Museum Naucratis project in the Western Delta region. Naucratis was the earliest Greek settlement in Egypt, established on the Nile in the 7th century BC as a base for Greek merchants. The site has been subject to excavations since the 19th century. However, in 2012, the British Museum started new field work at Naucratis with the support of the Honor Frost Foundation and other institutions. The projects so far have revealed evidence for occupation and maritime activities in Naucratis from the 7th century BC until the 7th century AD. This is still an ongoing and very promising project as well. Another project supported by the foundation started in 2017. It is the survey of the ancient Egyptian harbor of Nile, located along the shores of Lake Moreos in the Fayoum region, southwest of Cairo. The project is carried out by the French Institute of Oriental Studies. Lake Moreos was fed by the Nile in antiquity, and around it thrived many settlements and activities since the ancient Egyptian period. The town of Niwer is mentioned in text from the late Bronze Age, its harbor was possibly used as a stopover for trade and as a transit point for military campaigns. Research of Miwar includes sedimentological analysis, geophysical survey would be remaining structure, and a canal connected to that, which is kindly supported by the foundation, which is the
Last, but by no means least, a very interesting and unique project which is kindly supported by the Foundation. It is documenting the Egyptian traditional riverine, tangible and intangible heritage. In fact, it is a very timely project since riverine heritage in Egypt is on its way to disappear. And I believe that this project will play a key role in its documentation and recording. The project also aims to train a new generation of Egyptian maritime ethnographers. Therefore, it includes carrying out workshops on documenting traditional sailing boats and ethnographic research. This ongoing project is carried out by a team of researchers led by Ziad Morsi from the University of Southampton and currently a visiting lecturer at the Alexandria Centre for Maritime Archaeology. The work that the project's team has done is quite amazing, actually. They have traveled along the Nile throughout the entire country and finally managed to locate probably the last surviving traditional Nile wooden boat in Egypt. Not only the project documented the boat itself, but also it documented the knowledge and the memories of its builders and owners before it's too late. Since the creation of the UNRFOS Foundation in 2011, it has supported almost 20 projects in Egypt, several of which are ongoing projects, and the Foundation is supporting more every year. In fact, UNRFOS has contributed to maritime archaeology in an unprecedented way. All the work she has done in that field during her life, and now all the work the Foundation carrying her name is supporting. The projects that the Foundation is supporting in Egypt have played and will continue to play a fundamental role in developing different aspects of maritime archaeology, including education, training, publications, outreach, preservation, and capacity building, and more. Finally, I wish to sincerely thank Alison and the trustees of the UNRFOS Foundation for giving me the honor of speaking to you today. And of course, I'd like to thank Lucy, Neelam, Lauren, and Mark, and all the Foundation's team for the amazing work they are doing. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Emad. I'm actually quite pleased we got as far as we did, knowing how the internet can be disturbed when communicating with Egypt and other countries in the region. So I'm quite pleased that we managed to see all your wonderful slides, and we're really grateful to you for really giving us insight into the breadth of work, not only that the foundation is supporting, but it's a very vibrant research environment in Egypt. And whilst we know there are lots of foreign missions working out there, which the foundation is also supporting, and many others as well, but it's really exciting to see so much work being conducted by Egyptian researchers and particularly the Egyptian students as well. Yeah. I mean, I've always been the greatest fan of the Outreach project, and hopefully that's one that can develop more. I mean, that's where the future lies, obviously, isn't it? Exactly. As we know, because Absolutely. We've supported them, is the students and the maritime archaeologists of the future. And it's so great to see so many of your team with a fantastic leader doing so many different and diverse, as you pointed out at the end, projects with really thought-provoking subjects. I mean, the work that Ziad's doing with tragedy is so critical, as you quite rightly said, because of the fact that those memories and that knowledge bases aren't going to be around for very long. So I mean, it was really, really fascinating. We want more. We want more. Yes. I want more.
Definitely.
But also congratulations, not just for the talk, but also on your UNESCO chair. I wish we could have a collective clap, because that really is quite an achievement on top of many of the others. So well done, well done, well done. We have some questions coming through. Some of them are to do with collaborations. People are asking, basically, it was specifically to do with French collaborations, but whom else you collaborate with on some of these projects? I know that they're not all yours, but I'm just wondering if that's, are you mostly operating under the centre, or do you work in collaboration with other organisations or foreign missions or department?
We as the centre are mostly running our own projects, but the centre students and researchers, they go everywhere. I mean, they collaborate with anyone who, on the just joint projects in Egypt or outside Egypt, as you know. I mean, the grant, the bursary grant that is given by the foundation is allowing them to move freely to join other projects, but the center's projects are mainly run by the center's team. Yes.
Fantastic. So I've got two questions from Peter Campbell. He's so greedy, yes. Isn't he? I think they're both really interesting, and in fact, the first one sort of speaks to the sort of context of the history of the development of the discipline. Which, I mean, can you see it? He's asking about. You know, that sort of Mary Rose, the Mary Rose moment, I guess, for the equivalent. And how much do you think that really sparked the interest?
Actually, the Khufu ship has not been considered as maritime object until recently. It has only been studied from a very Egyptology traditional perspective. I mean, since its discovery in 1954, no one was thinking of maritime archaeology at that point, or thinking of a boat found in the desert to be related to maritime archaeology. This does not occur until quite recent, when, you know, generations of Egyptians have started talking about, well, it's a ship, it's in the desert, but it's still a ship built by shipbuilders. It is maritime archaeology. So this is recent. It has not been like this originally. The issues of underwater looting in Egypt, yes, of course, we have issues with this. Personally, I think that the main counter action is awareness. Basically, you cannot guard everything underwater. There's no mechanism for guarding certain sites in the middle of nowhere. So it's more into raising awareness and instructing dive guides and instructing boat captains. And the Ministry of Antiquities and Tourism is doing quite a lot in this. And also we, as a university, are doing this with the Chamber of Diving and with the diving instructors in the Red Sea. I was just in Sharm el-Sheikh a few weeks ago talking to diving instructors there. So there is no physical thing to be done except raising awareness and informing people and educating people.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. And I think that's where the outreach project is so important. And I know that we're thinking about trying to develop that and spread it, you know, more globally, or certainly in the sense of the Egyptian global, so that we're reaching different communities, but not just schools, but maybe, as you say, the diving communities. I mean, this is a problem that has skyrocketed, unfortunately, in many areas, but certainly since COVID, actually, as far as I can see. But and it's not just a problem that's a challenge in Egypt, but I think that the awareness work you're doing is amazing, and I think that's something that we should be working on more. And the other thing about the Cheops boat being only recently acknowledged as a maritime artifact is really, really interesting, because it also speaks to the way that the discipline has developed over time. I mean, we think of the work Nisreen's doing in Oxford with the boat models more generally, and the role that these craft played. So I think that's a really interesting observation that we should perhaps feed into some other projects that the foundation is supporting around developing the discipline and that sort of thing.
And they're moving it.
They're moving it?
Yeah.
Where are they moving it? To the new museum?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Gosh. Well, that'll be, I think you need to get your camera out for that one.
Yes.
And then, of course, there's the second one. It's all so exciting. Yes. Boats in Egypt. What more could you want? But anyway, Ahmed is asking, quite rightly, actually, are there ideas of trying to develop more projects in the eastern branch of the Nile? I know of one that would fit that agenda, but do you know of any projects that are coming up to the eastern?
I mean, underwater projects, I don't think it's going to be that easy because it requires a lot of permissions and also working there is quite complicated. I remember the work that the Ministry of Antiquities has done in the Nile underwater. It was very complicated, very difficult. Also using remote sensing there is difficult. So I don't know about working in the Nile, but in the Delta, definitely there are lots of sites that can be explored in the Delta. But underwater, I don't think so. It's not that easy at all.
No, but then I guess we can think of some of, because of that very dynamic landscape change that's
exactly.
Still the Delta is subject to. So there's lots of possibilities with some of the former harbour sites that
the Nile is moving, it's dynamic. So some of the harbors which used to be on the Nile now are in the middle of the plantations and farms and things. So yeah, definitely things can be done in that point.
Brilliant. Peter, I'm glad you're here. He's asking another question. I will go back to Marie's question though in a minute about I have yet to meet an Egyptian student who has not greatly impressed me. Could you highlight one or two undertaking exciting research? So this is digging a little bit more deeply into what your students are doing in the centre. Very good question. Thank you, Peter.
I'm not sure what he means.
Well, I mean, so you've showcased quite a lot of students who are either working in the centre or others who are actually working abroad doing PhDs. We know what Ziad's up to. I briefly referenced the scenes.
To know more,
he wants to know more about.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So we have Ziad is looking at 18th and 19th century Nile boats. I mean, the PhD students so far. Yeah, we have Nassim looking at boat models from the dynastic periods. Umayma was studying in Flinders. She was looking at amphora and amphora production, amphora trade in between Egypt and the Mediterranean. These are the PhD students. We have Nuran in Southampton. She's doing site management. But also in the center, students who are doing their master's degree, we have a variety of topics. I mean, we have things about maritime museums. We have a student looking at maritime museums. Yesterday, someone was presenting very interesting ideas about project management, actually. How did project management develop over time? Maritime and archaeological project management and the concept of management and the procedures and things like this. It was brought up yesterday. Someone yesterday also was presenting about votive boat models and maritime objects which were presented as in temples and things like this. So we have a variety of research. I mean, if Peter is interested in something specific, I can definitely help him with this. But we have a lot of interesting projects.
The idea of the project management is really interesting because
Muhammad Khalil is looking for this.
Oh, okay, brilliant. Because obviously Egypt is blessed in having a department who have been very active for a number of years, and as you highlighted, and the context in which those departments are able to act and the things that they're focusing on and how you build capacity. I mean, we also you noted the bursary that's provided through the department, but we also help members, employees of the Department of Antiquities in building their sort of academic capacity through the centre. So that's really interesting.
Someone also yesterday was presenting an idea for a topic concerning the diving sites in the Red Sea, which are affected by by looters or by sport divers, and how this can be mitigated. Looking at different sites, starting from ancient sites like Satayah, for example, all the way to the Sicil Gorm. So Alicia Johnson from the center was looking into this. Aya was looking at the effect of seismic activities on coastal sites in the Eastern Mediterranean. So we have quite a variety of topics.
Yeah, I like the seismic activities. And actually, maybe because we have, I'm sure there are quite a lot of people who are divers and interested in more modern wreck. Perhaps you could mention a little bit, before we go back to traditional boats, of course, about the work you've been doing with colleagues, including Nottingham, well, now Edinburgh University, on the Thistlegorm, and documenting some of the more modern wrecks in the Red Sea, because I think that's important. It goes back to this question of awareness raising and responsibility, etc.
Yes, this project we did with the funding from the Newton Musharrafa scheme, which is a joint Egyptian-British funding program. We did a couple of years ago, and it was focused around the Thistlegorm. Thistlegorm is a very famous World War II military ship, British ship, that was carrying weapons and ammunitions and machines and so lots of things for the British Army based in Alexandria, but because it was threatened by the German Air Force at that time in 1942, it could not enter the Mediterranean, so it traveled all around the Red Sea until Ras Muhammad. But again, the German Air Force bombed the ship, and it ended in Ras Muhammad, lying at 30 meters depth. It's a very famous diving site, very, very famous, one of the most famous shipwrecks in the entire world. And it's been diving heavily, but it's being affected badly by divers and also diving ships, because they are tying the ropes on the wreck. So it's actually breaking and destroying parts of the wreck. So this is a huge problem. With the funding of the project, University of Nottingham and Alexandria, we carried out this 3D documentation of the ship using photogrammetry and 360 videos. And the product was incredible. I mean, we did the work over 1 week only, but the outcome was just amazing. This has been on the website of the project, the Thistlegorm project, the website name. And recently a publication came out containing all the data and all the information about the project. So we ended with a product which is a 3D model, a detailed model of the ship inside and out, with all the decks, with everything, and it can be used as a benchmark, basically, to try to determine what kind of damage happened. You have to have a reference point. So this is a reference point that you can always check. And also it is used by divers and dive guides to inform divers about the details of the ship and where to go in, where to go out, and so on. So it's very important, I think, and the work was done amazingly by the team from the University of Nottingham and Alexandria University. Yes.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm trying to see if there are any more questions I've missed in the chat, because I've just been focusing on the Q&A. But while I'm looking for that, I'd like to ask you a bit more about Mr. Bagouche. I mean, obviously I have a privileged position to be able to read all the reports you submit, and it's, I mean, in some ways it's a remarkable find, because I know how the project started, and every year you just come back with more and more material. And I guess I'm wondering about the sort of the diachronic aspect. In sense of you've got a lot of Roman material. I mean, what's the but I hadn't really absorbed the amount of material you've got through to the 20th century and all the medieval material. Could you talk a little bit more about that, because it's such a fascinating site?
Yeah, the majority, as you mentioned, is Roman, early Roman, all the way to late Roman. But we definitely have Islamic material, medieval. We have glazed pottery, which is typical Islamic, shapes and designs.
Yeah.
We have anchors which also are medieval, and we have anchors from the 20th century, Admiralty boats. And the site, actually, we have a very interesting site, a very interesting find we found this season. Muhammad, my colleague, he took a photograph of an engraving, a sculpture, not sculpture, sorry, graffiti on one of the rocks in Bagouche, carrying a name of a British ship. And when we looked into this, we found that this is actually a British warship that came and surveyed Bagouche in 1936. And we have the map of that. And then digging more, we realized that Marsa Bagouche was actually a very big camp during World War II, and it has a runway for airplanes, and it was heavily used by the British forces in World War II because of the accessibility to fresh water. We even found some of the remains from that period. So it seems that the site has been occupied due to its advantages, which is fresh water, confined confined anchorage, and so on. So we have evidence, plenty of evidence coming through all these periods. But definitely we have Roman, definitely we have Islamic, medieval, and definitely we have 20th century.
Fantastic. I'm trying to see. I'm just wondering. There's one other question I might ask in a minute, but is that how much? Again, I partly know the answer to this, but I think it's such an interesting site. How much is that mirrored with the finds? Because I know you're working on, on the seashore as well as underwater.
Mm-hmm.
How much is that reflected in what you're finding on the land or the coastal zone?
On the land, unfortunately, most of the site is built over by, it's covered by summer resorts and hotels and stuff like this. So on the land, very little survived. The only place surviving on land is the place where the university had the camp, because it's just a camp. This is where we found the systems, the Roman systems with the fresh water in them. But on the site of Ladamantia, the land site is completely built over. There's nothing we can do there. So we are only looking in the water.
Yeah, and this actually highlights another project that the foundation is supporting, which is this project we're working on together, which is not nepotistic at all, which is trying to document other sites like Bagouche that are facing threat along this coast, because there's massive coastal development on the Mediterranean, well, around many of the coasts of Egypt, but particularly the Mediterranean coast, sort of heading towards Libya. And so we're trying to work on a project with Southampton University Maria project to document those sites before they regrettably end up being built over, like Bagouche has on land. So that's quite exciting. And then there's somebody asking about doing some more work in the Nile, I see, which comes with its own challenges. Elephantine Island, that would be amazing.
Yes, absolutely. I would go tomorrow if this is possible.
Yeah, I think it would have to be thought through quite well, though, in terms of planning that one. But yes. So have I got any other questions? I'm just trying to see.
Yes, we have one from Mohammed.
Oh, well done.
Thanks, Dr. Emad Khalil. Do you think it's a good idea to publish a 3D model through the web, such like Sketchfab, or let people around the world see? Yes, Mohammed, the Thistle Gorm model is published on Sketchfab. Just Google it, you're gonna find it. Everything concerning the Thistle Gorm is on Sketchfab, so it's accessible for anyone. I use this often for teaching. David Blackman, do you have any evidence for Muslim military harbors? Muslim chronicles refer to them, but where are the remains? Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have any clear evidence for Muslim per se military harbors. Probably because it has been built over and built over and built over and so on. But I mean, no, we don't have evidence for Muslim military harbors, unfortunately.
And that questions what the Muslim military harbors look like. I know David's been working with some in southern Spain, but
unfortunately, no.
To look harder, more looting by the looks of it.
Yeah. Someone else is asking.
I like this. You can share the questions yourself this way. It's great.
And the effect of dive industry on shipwrecks and Thistle Gorm pressure, among other natural ones, proper from Suez, is available during public assessment. Yeah, I don't think any serious work or any serious studies has been done on any shipwrecks, modern shipwrecks, except the Thistle Gorm. And this is phase 2 of the project. I mean, John Henderson has secured funding for this. We're just waiting for the COVID to easy a little bit. But we are doing a second phase of the project, looking at other shipwrecks as well, not just the Thistle Gorm.
And how much is that being communicated in Arabic as well as in English? Because I know the latest publication, if I'm correct, is in English, because it would be good to communicate that in Arabic. I know a lot of the people who are diving in these areas are on liveables and that sort of thing, so they come from all over the world. But going back to your awareness raising.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, most of the divers are English speakers, but definitely something needs to be done in Arabic. I think once the book is, I haven't seen the book yet, but once I have a copy of the book, we can develop a resume of it in Arabic or something, an abstract of it in Arabic, something small that can be published by the Alexandria Biblioteca, for example, and we can have this in Arabic definitely. Most of the presentations I do about this project are in Arabic, so this is our side. From our side, we do this. Also, the Maritime Archaeology Outreach Project is always showing the children 3D videos of the Sicil Gorm and explaining this in Arabic. So it's part of the activities they always do in the events in schools, that they are showing the children the movie or the film that was produced during the project and explaining what this is in Arabic. So this is the part we do, but definitely in terms of publication, we can do something in Arabic.
And then we've got a question about looking for pharaonic vessels in the Red Sea, I think. Who's going to answer that one, Emad, you or me?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Well, this was it wasn't necessarily pharaonic vessels, but we did conduct some survey work a couple of years ago with the department, trying to identify not only a known wreck, but also finding new wrecks. And it's quite challenging actually in the Red Sea because of the nature of the coral reefs, and the temperatures of the sea are quite warm. So shipwreck doesn't necessarily preserve that well. So but there have been some attempts, and obviously there's work that's been conducted on the opposite shore as well. A number of projects that Emad referenced on the Saudi coast. So that's all been published. There's also one about protecting the maritime heritage of El Max.
Yes.
Do you know? Can you answer anything?
Yeah,
this is from Arturo.
Arturo, yes, of course. El Max is an area. It's a very maritime community of fishermen. And it has very specific features, even in terms of the design of houses and how it's established on the coast of the canals connecting the sea to the lake and so on. Now there are 3 or 4 of our students thinking of actually doing or applying to the foundation to do some sort of preservation of the maritime traditions of the Max. This work has started last year by Yomna, one of our students, and she went there and she met people and she started documenting things. And now they want to continue this project in a more organized way, applying for support and going there and trying to make some sort of documentation, because unfortunately all this area is being modernized, if I may say. The buildings, the government is knocking down the building and building new ones. So it's going to disappear in maybe a couple of years. So it's time to try to document this very interesting area.
Wow, no, definitely it sounds like. There's a question here from Musa, who is asking about the expansion of the work you're doing through to sub-Saharan Africa. Regrettably, the foundation's remit doesn't necessarily go that far south, but I do know of a recently funded project based in Cambridge that is documenting sites in sub-Saharan Africa. It's an adjunct to the EAMENA project led by Paul Lane, and hopefully there will be an extension to that project that covers the maritime zone. So you could contact Paul Lane, and maybe Emad and his students would bring their expertise to work with you on that bit. Although you seem to be quite busy already, actually, Emad.
They are not. They can go.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting lots of young blood coming up through the ranks.
Exactly.
So,
this is why we're teaching them.
Exactly. So we can go back and retire gracefully. Yes. I would assume the ancient maybe use this shallow. This is about the punt. Oh, I see. This is in response to the pharaonic. Yes, I think working in the Red Sea is complicated in terms of identifying wrecks, other than those when, like Sadana, when you've got beautiful remains sitting on the sea.
After finding the Wadi al-Jarf harbor, and now the guys are starting to find wood while they are dredging or hydrolifting.
Really?
So, yeah. They're finding pieces of wood. Yes. It's in the report.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So,
That's
I mean,
very
we might
exciting.
be coming there, you know, we might be approaching finding something, because the harbor is very interesting and silted up, so you never know what's down there.
Yeah.
Anchors are coming up all the time, and pieces of ropes, so we never know.
Yes, and I think this actually addresses another aspect of research that needs expanding in Egypt more generally, is the application of marine geophysical survey. I know that the department has deployed, as I call them, toys on the Nile before,
Yeah,
and I know that we're purchasing some for Bagouche. But you're right, the sort of particular sort of preservation context of the sites in the Red Sea would definitely benefit from using different techniques and different bits of equipment. So we need to start targeting areas, perhaps, you know, in terms of routes of trade or entrances and exits to harbours, that sort of thing, because it could be really exciting to find that boat to punt, as has been referenced. Oh, there's one in the chat here. Oh no, that's Arturo. Have I missed any others? Have we got any other questions? It's great. There's lots and lots of interest. You've obviously sparked. Well, I mean, I think that the presentation just highlighted how diverse the work that's being conducted, not just by yourselves, but you know, more generally. Are there any other questions? What's your aspiration for the future then, Emad? That's always a tricky one to end on. Where do you think we should be focusing our energy? Where are the gaps, or how do you see things developing in the future in Egypt?
Well, I mean, you probably know this, but it's investing in more people in Egypt, or even in the region in general. You know, we are doing this already. We have trainees, we have students, but we definitely need more people to have more ideas and more, you know, more energy, if I may say. Equipment is not a problem. The sites are everywhere, but you need people to work. You need well-educated, well-trained people. Not just people who are interested and who are enjoying it, but the as well has to be skillful and has to be properly trained and properly educated. I am, at least, I'm getting old, and new generations have to come up and follow up, and it has to be like this. It has to be like this. In few days' time, on the 14th, we have a workshop with the UNESCO online about the Arab region and about generally the Arab region. And this is one of the main problems we're facing. We don't have people and don't have enough people. So education and training, capacity building, for me, is the future.
Okay, well, that's a good note to the foundation. I know the trustees are listening as well. And I mean, it's something we definitely focus on with the bursaries that we offer, not just through the centre, but beyond. And I mean, it would also be good, we've talked about this before, but if there are people listening out there, the program that Emad has outlined, although you didn't go into a huge amount of detail, I understand, is excellent. You can do it at diploma and master's level. It's so obviously there's Arabic speaking, but it's primarily taught in English. Tell me when I'm misrepresenting your and we'd love to encourage more people from the Honor Frost region to participate, to actually do the MA or the diploma, but also more students from Egypt. So there are opportunities there, and the scholarships available. So have a look at it, check it out. I see Lauren's put the website up on the chat, so there's no excuse not to have a look. So we've got a couple of more minutes left. I think we've had some really fruitful discussion. Thank you. Anybody got any final burning questions before they run off and, well, in your case, you have their supper? Can't see any. I don't think I've missed any. Mark, thank you very much for saying I haven't. Hello, Serene. Okay, well, here's the link again. Thank you to the centre. Well, if there are no more questions, then I think it just remains to say thank you so much, Emad.
Thank you. I mean, I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Really, I'm very honored. Thank you very much.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure, and it's just a shame that we can't be all together to do that, and to
Inshallah, we
thank
will.
you in person. But yeah, soon let's hope that we can have a meeting in Egypt. We were just talking about the potential of that today in the trustees meeting, so we can meet everybody and see everybody again. And let's keep on talking about new projects. And if anybody listening has ideas for projects in Egypt or beyond in the region, please have a look on the website, have a look at the small grants. We're always looking for new and exciting adventures. So thank you once again, Emad, for the amazing work that you continue to do. You and the whole team and the students, we're really grateful to everything and the outreach projects, etc. And yeah, have a good evening,
Very good.
everybody.
Thank you very much.
And thank you.
Bye bye, Lucy.